Airbnb just announced that they're becoming the first platform to partner with landlords at apartment complexes in order to advertise apartments that will allow for tenants to sublet on Airbnb. I think this has both positive and negative things that come with it. I want to talk about it right now here on the Fearless Investor channel. If you haven't subscribed, you need to right now, and I would love if you drop a comment because I know you're going to have an opinion about this. So this announcement was made on November 30th, 2022, and it was released by CNBC. We're actually going to go through the article together here, but for a little bit of context, Airbnb has always been about getting as many hosts as possible, and they've always been an innovative company that's allowing a normal, average, everyday person that has either an apartment or owns a house to be able to sublet really just the way that it started in order to make some money. It's called Airbnb because it was standing for Air Bed and Breakfast, an air mattress that acts as a bed and breakfast in a home that you already own or an apartment that you want to go ahead and rent out another room. So this is just in line exactly with the company's motto, and what they're trying to do is just provide opportunities for people to earn additional income without having to go out and buy a house. But this comes at a really interesting time because we're both talking about recession. We're talking about this quote unquote Airbnb bust. And for that reason, this could increase a lot of competition. So I want to talk about the positives and negatives right now. Let's go ahead and go through this article by CNBC. Okay, like I said, this was released by CNBC, and I'm just going to go line by line here and just kind of give you my thoughts on each of these things that it could potentially have a positive or negative impact for you, the host, or you, the prospective host. So again, Airbnb is introducing an Airbnb-friendly apartment platform. It's partnering with several major landlords and management companies to list designated apartment buildings where renters are allowed to offer short-term sublets on site. The company said Wednesday that a new page on its website will list so-called Airbnb-friendly buildings, which will give tenants the option to host their apartments just as a homeowner can. So in other words, there's going to be, and as you can see here, 175 buildings in more than 25 major markets: LA, San Francisco, Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, Denver, Seattle, Phoenix. All of these tenants that are actual tenants in the property will be allowed to sublet on Airbnb, and it'll be hosted as a separate site. So even if you do this in a city that isn't a quote unquote, or a landlord that isn't a quote unquote partner, you can do it, but this is actually being advertised as its own separate platform, its own separate page on the platform. So let's keep on reading. The platform will help tenants host their rentals and will help the buildings attract tenants who may want to host. How much tenants could earn will vary. Of course, it can vary. We all kind of know how that works. It depends on where it's located, depends on the amenities, it depends on all of that. Now, the reason that they give this idea of wanting to, allow these tenants to sublet is because of how much rents have climbed. So rents are starting to ease, but are still up 10% from a year ago. Last year, rents rose more than 15%. That's a major impact on tenants, right? If I used to pay $1,000 and now I pay $1,150, that's a 15% increase. Or if I used to pay $2,000, now I pay $2,300. This could be essentially a great way to offset some of those costs, right? But what could be a negative of that? Well, as you know, there's a lot of hosts out there that will probably say, hey, I'm going to live here, but then they decide, oh, never mind, I'm not going to live here. I'm just going to rent it out for the entire year and essentially arbitrage the building, which could increase a lot of competition, and especially creating a building that used to be just for really residents is now kind of turning more into a hotel. And that could create a lot of rift as well with those that are actually following the laws and saying, no, I'm only going to rent it out for a certain amount of days because I live here the rest of the time. That might hurt the way that they're experiencing their life in their own building. The other side of it is if a apartment knows that it's going to give the tenants the opportunity to make money, don't you think that apartment is probably going to raise their rents? So this might actually be counterproductive. Even though the tenant's going to be making money, are they going to be paying, instead of $2,000 a month, are they now going to be paying $2,500 a month? And now an apartment building down the street that doesn't offer short-term rentals, is it possible that they look at that one and say, well, if they're renting a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom out for $2,500, then shouldn't we? Ours is only $2,000. And it might subsequently raise rents all over the place. Continuing to read here, the new page on Airbnb's website will also offer a calculator to show how much money the tenant can potentially make per month. The calculation changes depending on the number of bedrooms, the number of nights each building allows, as well as the potential asking rents given the building's amenities. So I've never been a fan of calculations being done for you. This will be interesting to see. My gut tells me it'll probably not be very accurate, but then again, maybe Airbnb will surprise us with this. I've never seen a calculator that really does know what it's talking about. My calculator does not do that. It doesn't do auto calculations for you. You have to actually do the work. And if you do want to pick up that free calculator, it's fearlesskyle.com/calculator. Again, fearlesskyle.com/calculator. Now, here is where my last statement could go as untrue in regards to them raising rents, because the apartment buildings will actually charge the tenants up to 20% of the piece of the pie, essentially, for the Airbnb income. So, as for an example, an average of 9 nights per month will come out to $900 per month. Well, the apartment building can take 20% of that $900, thus giving them the opportunity to make money without having to charge more for the tenant. So that's interesting. We'll have to see how that plays out. But here is where the potential good regulation side of this can happen. All hosts in the participating buildings must be the primary resident, and the buildings can restrict how many nights per month the apartment can be subletted. That's generally between 80 to 120 nights per year. The restrictions, which can be enforced since the transactions all take place on the portal, are intended to prevent investors from taking part in subletting the apartments full time. Now, this is great in theory. If we can actually restrict the tenants from doing it up to 80 or 120 nights out of the year, that's awesome. But, big but on this one, Airbnb is not the only online travel agency, also known as an OTA. We have VRBO, we have Furnish Finders, we have direct booking websites, we have booking.com. Just because I list on Airbnb for 80 to 120 nights out of the year doesn't mean I can't list on other platforms. Are the apartments going to be keen to this? Are they going to have the staff to be able to check this out? And is Airbnb's platform really going to be able to restrict them? The answer to that is probably yes, but what happens after that 120 days gets used up? Now I'm just going to rely on my direct bookings, my booking.com, my VRBO, my Furnish Finders, and that can be just as lucrative, but it also, again, changes the experience in that apartment complex. If there's 100 apartment units in there and 50 of them are doing this full time and out of 360 days out of the year, because the apartments aren't understanding that, oh, VRBO and all these other sites are also an option, that's going to really impact the way that those tenants that live there full time are experiencing that living situation. Plus, once again, if we start to see that that's 100% occupied, isn't it possible that the rents are going to go up in that apartment complex? Probably. The apartment building owner or management company also has the right to review the listing before they go live and deactivate a listing if it does not comply with the building standards. So once again, giving them more control, which I do like, but we'll have to see if that actually does work out that way. And their closing statements: we believe this platform will provide the right tools for both the owners and the residents to effectively manage short-term rental activity without impacting overall housing supply. A Greystar representative said, "We are collaborating with Airbnb on the innovative approach to participate in the 21st century sharing economy in a thoughtful way." So here's my overall thought, is that in theory, this all sounds great, but the actual implementation and the overseeing and the checks and balances of it make me a little bit nervous. And it feels like we're going to potentially see a lot of people jump in and get 1 or 2 properties in apartment complexes in these major metropolitan areas. I have business in Phoenix, and for that reason, I'm going to be really interested to see how this affects especially condos in the area. A lot of condos that are 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms do decent. And now with the influx of people using their rooms, this might impact the supply dramatically for those apartments and those condos. And especially if people are abusing this could impact definitely the return on income. Now, this could also be a great opportunity for those of you that are looking at this and saying, hey, I don't have a Airbnb portfolio, but I want to build one. and it's tough for me to go out and get an arbitrage. Maybe moving into one of these apartment complexes could be that start for you that allows you to be able to start renting out a room or your place for 80 nights out of the year, get to Superhost, and then be able to build your portfolio from there. So again, I want to know what you have to say about this. Please comment down below. Do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's a bad thing? Do you think it's both good and bad? Or do you think that this is just kind of another thing that really isn't going to impact your business? Drop a comment. Let's get the conversation started.